is where the drama starts. Lap 30, 8 laps to go. Sandobi hoping to take advantage of these lapped cars. Pileski goes, dives onto the right side. Very aggressive here. This is lap 4. The two Viceroys. Bill Frazier ahead of Matt Pileski. Frazier's off. Frazier hit the grass. You hit that tire wall, your day is done. Well, now it's lap 20. The Williams still trying to get around the Terrell team as he'll go around the lap car and around those at the same time. At the same time, he's got the inside corner. Will he ride the curb? Yes, he will. He will get him on the inside. Vita Maria leading us all into Moss's corner. Look at the beauty as his right side will clip the grass. Oh, a 180, no, a 360. Oh. Who will yield going into this corner? It's really not meant for too wide as it will be Gernald. Gernald will yield. Lots of smoke picking up from that Williams car. He is pushing it to the absolute limit. 26 of 30 now. Only 4 laps to go. He's going to get the run coming out the final corner. He's going to pull up side by side with the leader. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Who is going to get there first? It's going to be...
While Gurno Frisch has been dominant in the Drivers' Championship, the Team Championship that makes up the Lotus 79 Classic Team Championship is as close as ever as we arrive in Montreal for round number 10. We're glad you're here with us for all of the live coverage here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hello everyone, I'm Samuel Ryman, and with me in the booth is Joe Peake, sitting in for Richie Hearn. Behind the scenes, doing all of the button pushing is our director Amjad Yamin, and he's using camera sets provided by Dougie Beard. Joe, the last couple of tracks we've been to have been hard to pass on, but this track has a bit of everything, including a long back straight that should help contribute to a couple of exciting battles.
Honestly, it's a good thing this track has a few long straights because it has its own difficulties for passing. All but one braking zone is into a chicane, so you are going to see some good chances to send one in, but side-by-side racing is going to be pretty hair-raising. On top of that, this 13-turn circuit is a mix of permanent race course and actual streets that are almost all surrounded by tight concrete walls. Depending on who you ask, you could call it a street course, but whatever you want to call it, these 2.7 miles will punish you harshly for any mistakes. What's very cool about this combination is that the Lotus 79 actually raced here. Granted, it was in a slightly different layout, so it's not completely historically accurate, but our competitors will get a real taste of what Andretti and Peterson dealt with. And so that you yourself can get a feel for what these drivers will go through, let's hop on board the GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Amjad Yamin in the GSRC Lotus 79, so let's do a lap around Montreal. Down into the Senna S, it seems like a good passing spot on paper, but the switch back into the hairpin can make it very tricky to overtake on either side. Coming out of the turn, be careful getting to the throttle since the slow corners won't give you the downforce you need to gun it. Down into turns 3 and 4, watch out for the wall on the exit. It sits right at the edge of the pavement where it can grab the greedy. Turn 5 needs to be on the throttle as much as you can, which will be tough if you're understeering. Hold tight to the right on the approach to 6 and throw out the anchors. Hugging the apex in the first half of the chicane will be important because once again, you're forced to tiptoe a little bit as you feed onto the power. A few extra feet of acceleration will be important down this gently curving backstretch. Once you spot the bridge, let it drift to the left, line up your braking, and try to get it slowed up for turns 8 and 9. Stay off the big sausage curbs here to avoid upsetting the car because sliding around can easily chuck you into the wall on the right. Now we approach the only braking zone that isn't into a chicane. The casino hairpin offers a great chance to overtake, but it'll be very easy to get into the corner too deep. Expect some over-under moves to take place here. Wily drivers will make sure they can get on the gas earlier than their competitors to give them the most speed possible down the longest straight of the track. There's likely to be some draft battles here with the big hole this car punches in the air. The most difficult part will be spotting your brake marker and hitting it accurately. Coming into the last chicane, as always, avoid the wall of champions. Pulling a tank slapper into there is going to end your day in a hurry. But hopefully you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Montreal.
Well, that's how tricky this circuit is when there's only one car on the track. We have 44 here today in the single split, so it'll be quite dramatic. And it's probably going to be possible that even during this broadcast, as much as Drew and I are going to talk, you're not going to learn every single name. So let's talk about the names you do need to keep an eye on who are fighting for this championship. With his dominance this season, it should come as no surprise that even when you take 4 drop weeks into account, Gernot Frisch still holds a massive points lead over defending champion Matt Wood. Behind Matt Wood, the UK and Ireland division is very well represented, with Alex Millwood sitting in 3rd place and George Lambert down in 4th. Nicola Cochi rounding out our graphic in 5th place, and you can see only 3 markers back of Lambert, so pretty tight battle going on. Yeah, honestly, a pretty tight battle going on from 2nd on back. It's just Frisch really running away with it with 3 rounds to go. However, things much tighter in the team championship. You just see Ligier there in the background. That's because they are the new points leaders, with all 3 of their cars finishing in the top 10 at Zolder and also at last week's race. They are the new team championship leaders ahead of Brabham, which is a team that Gernot Frisch races for. Also, Ferrari have been doing well, and Lotus have been doing okay as well, although they've started to fade out a little bit. And all these teams are really going to have to be on top of their game in these last few rounds, Joe.
Certainly, and they're going to have to be on top of their game today because looking at the race details, we got a lot of laps around this track today, 30 of them that they're going to have to navigate. Now, they do have drop weeks in the points to help them with that championship. That's because they use the official iRacing points, so they get 4 of them. However, for the teams, it is limited. There's only 2 drop weeks for those. Just like in 1978, they have no stop for fuel. So that means it is straight from the green flag to the checkers. Otherwise, you're going to be losing a lot of time having to come in for repairs because, well, they have no spare car. They also have an incident cap. If you get 17 incidents, you're going to be disqualified. I think it's highly unlikely that we'll see anybody disqualified before their car wrecks out of this race because it's a lot easier to get damaged than off tracks. The main off tracks I think they're going to worry about, Sam, probably a cut course.
And currently qualifying is underway. It's an 8-minute long session. You see already half of that has gone by, but the cars have just done their out lap and their first time lap. This is your provisional pole sitter, also our points leader and race winner of most events so far this season, Gernot Frisch, in that number 1 machine. That means he has the highest I rating of the 44 drivers in this division. And I'm noticing a few new names here, Joe, I don't always see. The number 6 car of Auguste Dirac just jumped up to 9th place in qualifying. And also Steve Bycroft is in the number 7 car, currently qualified in 7th.
Bycroft used to be a regular here. Glad to see him back, absolutely. But some of these drivers that we're seeing might be drivers who tend to be in the 2nd split that we usually have for this race. Juan Costa being one of them potentially there. Looks like he had some problems coming out of the final chicane and the Wall of Champions, but manages to get it going once again. So, and Marco Sanfilippo, unfortunately, bends it right before the line, so he won't get a second lap in. But yeah, so we're going to see some drivers who actually are pretty familiar with this car, I would imagine, but just haven't raced with the big boys in a while.
Yeah, well, I'm looking down. I mean, here we go. We just had Kendrick Taylor on screen. That's a name we're familiar with, but he has a number 25 on this car. That means had a couple more people signed up for this race and had this race gone split, we wouldn't be seeing him. He'd be in the number 1 or the number 2 car down in the bottom split. Other drivers with high numbers. John Stevens has number 22 on his car. He's a regular top 10 contender at some races. So really a high-quality field of battling here today. Juha Noralampi, you see, has taken provisional pole away by a 1/10 of a second from Matt Wood. Gernot Frisch has been bumped all the way back down to 3rd.
And Juha tends to fare pretty well. The big question is whether he can withstand pressure if he's off in the lead. And can't really gap the field. Now, from what I understand, he did manage to do that earlier, so that bodes well for him potentially taking a win here today.
And I mean, as spectators, we're all aware of the fact that we are about to see a 44-car race on a narrow street circuit that is known for attrition. However, here's the other thing to that, as we're watching Jamie Hall, who has yet to put in a time lap. Let's see, was that time lap right there in the number 9 car? No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. Okay, it goes 14th. The drivers are very well aware of that too, Joe. They're going to be aware that they might need to take a bit of extra caution in this race, or else things could get ugly in a hurry. And that's another benefit to starting up front, is I wouldn't be surprised if we see a very cautious field through those first couple of turns, just knowing that there's a lot of danger out there.
Yeah, that would certainly be my take on it, but not everybody gets the memo. Hopefully everybody's cautious so that we see a lot of drivers take the checkered flag. But here's the other problem with this big field. It's also going to mean a lot of lap traffic. This is not a very long course, especially by F1 terms, at under 3 miles. So if we don't have a lot of drivers fall out quickly, you're going to see Yuha catch traffic very early on and have to deal with a lot of it.
Still riding on board Jamie Hall here. Is he the only car left out on track? No, Michael Sherlin is out there as well. In fact, as we ride on board Hall down the back straight, I'll give you a report on where Michael Sherlin jumps up to. Actually, he had incident points in both of his qualifying attempts, so he'll have to start from the back of the field. All right, let's see what Jamie Hall has got for us in this number 9 car. Well, no, we're not going to, because he's made a mistake in the final chicane. That might do it for qualifying, Drew. So let's go ahead and read out our starting grid, because there are a lot of cars here today at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Starting on pole position, just as he did 2 hours ago, is Yuha Noralampi. Matt Wood, the defending champion, will start second. George Lambert, who has been on top form recently, will be starting third ahead of points leader Gernot Frisch. Alex Millwood qualifies fifth, and Nicola Cochi behind him in 6th. Then we come to Adam Fraser and Tommy Unhola on row number 4. David Roth and Steve Bycroft round out our top 10.
Guzarak will be 11th, followed by Hanma Costa in 12th. Simon Schultz will start P13. Then Jamie Hall, because of that error at the end, will only start 14th. Marco Sanfilippo will be next to him in 15th. Dustin Roeder is P16. Then you've got Peter Koneski in 17th. Pablo Suarez starts in the 18th spot. It's John Atkinson Jr. in 19th, and 20th is Kendrick Taylor.
Sam Doby starts all the way back in 21st ahead of John Stevens. These are all names we're familiar with, who normally up here in the top 10. It's just such a big field today. Danilo Sanfilippo in 23rd ahead of Michael Cochin. Fabio Guerrero, Barry West all the way back in 26th. Paulo Alberton will be starting 27th ahead of Robert Plumley, Keith Herner and Tony Tiolis.
Robert Simpkins will be 31st, and then Glenn Corrigan in 32nd. Francisco Gutierrez in 33rd. Paul Ferrer all the way down in 34th. Robert Botts starts P35. Brennan Cleveland 36th, and Eric Delinda 37th. Then it's Tommy Lacombe, Sergio Morales, Charles Eric Limelin, and Francois Gagnes, Michael Sherlin, Chris Howard, and Peter Brennan rounding out the tail end of the field here today of 44 cars, Sam.
Now, Paul Siller just took his spot on the grid. In fact, I'm seeing a lot of drivers opt to start from the grid here. Not many drivers electing to start from the pits. The lights are up. We're glad you're here to join us here on GSRC, because the lights are up and away they go. Noralampi gets off to a good start. He's going to have a track to himself. Matt Wood, likewise in 2nd place. But in 3rd place, Lambert holds on ahead of Frisch. So the top 4 stay in position for now as they all navigate their way through the chicane.
Yeah, Frisch knew he had to make an aggressive move to try and make some positions, but didn't quite come off. So they all according together. This is going to be a danger zone as well, not just the first 2 turns, Sam.
Yeah, Noralampi overshot that 2nd chicane. He did a whale of a job to hold on to it, but the problem was he'd already built up a bit of a lead over Matt Wood, and now this has brought Matt Wood right back within striking range. They're only a few turns away from that back straight, where if he's running a lower trim to downforce setup, he might be able to make something happen.
These drivers are going to have to be very, very careful on the first lap. The tires are very cold, and it's got so much power in this car. In these slow corners, it'll be dangerous if you mash the throttle down too quickly.
Yeah, very cold track temperature, as well as we got a spinner there in the hairpin. That was
That
Alex.
one was Millward.
Yeah, Alex Millward. Now here they go down the back straight. Noralampi's been able to build up that lead again, so he won't be challenged for the lead. But you see here in the middle of the field, got lots of side-by-side racing coming down into the chicane.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most popular places for overtakes, even though it is a chicane. You just want to try and get it done before you get there so that you're not side by side. Let's see what happened with Millward's spin. Break himself, or did he get on the power? Looks like maybe he got a little bit of help, actually.
Yeah, very possible with the amount of the traffic here. We'll get a better view of it, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely got turned around. That's pretty common there, Sam. The drivers get so close together because it's so slow. That you're trying to be eager on the throttle, and unfortunately, Kochi was a little too eager.
Yeah, some drivers already calling it a day. Tommy Lacombe and Alex Millward. I'm also not seeing Paulo Albertin and Tony Teolis show up on time in the scoring as having completed lap 1. So some drivers, unfortunately, we saw a bit of wheel banning going on in the opening lap. They might not make it that far into the race.
A little bit of side-by-side action back in 22nd. Stevens just got overtaken by Barry West. And West trying to move his way up. In fact, another car is going to get Stevens, it looks like, as Danilo Sanfilippo is going to get by.
Yeah, this is definitely not the positions these drivers are used to racing in. And so they'll definitely want to be making inroads. But honestly, Joe, some days, especially with a... Oh, big wreck in the first chicane. Marco Sanfilippo is off. We got Jamie Haller's involved in it. And here's Steve Bycroft as well. All these drivers racing around 10th place.
And that started with Bycroft. You're going to see here, he spins it around on entry. Another thing that's incredibly easy to do in this car is you're trying to get down the gears, because basically you're braking and slowing as you go if you're as fast as possible into this weird hairpin chicane.
Get another onboard view of it. This happening at the start of lap number 3 here today.
Italian driver, unfortunately, a bit of an innocent victim in this one, it looks like. Looks like we didn't get quite the right replay there, but yeah, just got collected through completely not being his fault.
Battle for 6 starting the brew between Adam Fraser and Tommy Unhola. And Tommy Unhola has a nice run on him coming down into this final chicane. Now, and Adam Fraser really overshot it there. If Unhola's able to get a nice run out of by the Wall of Champions, he might be able to make something happen down into turn 1. The road kinks to the right, the turn goes to the left, Unhola goes to the left, and he takes 6th place.
Well, he's going to try to. It switches back, and he's now on the outside. He's going to have to get to the power. It's going to be a drag race down to this corner, and for the second apex, he's going to be the outside. Ooh, a lot braver than Fraser, though. Fraser braked incredibly early there, Sam.
And that could almost be a result of different setups. Maybe Tommy Unhola is carrying a bit more downforce on these cars, so he can get away with making moves like that. The problem is if that is the case... Oh, there's a big slide from David Roth behind those two there. If that is the case, Adam Fraser would be able to eat Unhola back up when they get back around to the backstretch.
Yeah, I'm curious to watch to see if that'll be the case. They're coming up to that soon. What you saw with Rolf is going to be very, very familiar to any driver who's driven this car a lot, because like I mentioned earlier, it's got so much power. And even though the tires have heated up now and the cool temperatures shouldn't really affect it too much, it's just it does not like slow corners. And that's going to make the difference. And it looks like it made the difference here because Unhola got a good enough run. Meanwhile, Schultz has had some problems.
Simon Schultz have been running in 11th position. You already see him fading out of a top 20 now. Single car spin, getting back on the power. As you mentioned, Joe, a very cold track temperature here. and that could be contributing to that 72 degrees Fahrenheit. A very strong winds as well, although they're not dancing around that much. It's been quite steady westerly wind at about 10 to 12 miles an hour, so hopefully the drivers spent their time in practice and qualifying, getting accustomed to that.
Absolutely. The big danger is if that wind shifts too much. I'll have to keep an eye on it to see if it is changing pretty quickly, because that can absolutely catch them out. But man, look at our leader. It's not a huge gap over Wood, but this is the kind of race that Noralampi likes to run. He tends to not do as well under pressure, and I'd say right now he's sitting very, very pretty.
George Lambert isn't comfortable in third though. Gernot Frisch is running down the last couple of laps. He's right over his rear wing, and Gernot Frisch, if he gets a nice exit out of a hairpin here, although we've already seen from a couple of drivers that that's not always easy to do, he might be able to get the slipstream and make something happen on Lambert into the chicane, if not into turn one. He's definitely got the slipstream. It's just going to be a matter of whether he chooses to do anything. He's going down the inside. Gernot Frisch overpowers it though, and somehow makes it stick and takes third place. But here comes Lambert. He might make a counter-attack. Going into turn one, we saw at Brands Hatch when Lambert was going 3 wide there that he's not afraid to put up aggressive fights to defend his positions, and that's exactly what he's going to do here. On the outside now, out in all the marbles, Frisch will hold on to third place, and all this has done is allowed Coachy to reel them both in from fifth. The red, the blue, the yellow cars very close.
Coachy almost threw the race away there and actually cost himself a chance. Look at how far he fell back. I tell you what, though, Lambert was fighting hard to try and defend that from Frisch around the outside of the Senna S. It's just so hard to find grip when you're on the outside of that corner. He's going to get another opportunity into 8, though.
These are not the best passing opportunities on the track, but they still work. There's really no place on this circuit that's never seen an ambitious pass attempt at some point during the race. Still very early, it's lap number 6 of 30, and Lambert will be able to get the slipstream on Frisch here, and he won't have to worry about Coachy, because Coachy really didn't get a good exit out of a hairpin.
No, and I wouldn't say that Lambert got a phenomenal one either. Good enough, but the slipstream just not powerful enough on this straight to bring him in. He's going to have to do better off the hairpin. You really got to set it up off of that corner to get yourself an opportunity into the Wall of Champions.
So we see Noralampi pulling away up front. He's now expanded the race lead to 3 seconds over Matt Wood. We see the 3-way scrap going on for third place. Couple of cars still nose to tail for 6th place. The first pack we really see still was from 13th on back. There's a lot of cars behind John Atkinson Jr.
Yeah, on screen we're watching though those 2 red cars. Now we're going back to John Atkinson. Sam Doby trying to chase him around, and the other cars involved that Peter Koneski, Juanme Costa, Kendrick Taylor, and Steve Bycroft all making a fight all the way back to 18th. You got to be careful, though, because if it starts to check up in front of you with a battle, it can go south, and a lot of cars can get collected because, well, there's no place to hide here, Sam, if someone has an incident.
And the significant thing here, championship-wise, is, one car very much off the pace there, Costa. Now, the significant thing in this battle... Oh, was that lap car, perhaps? Anyway, yeah, my apologies there. Okay, so going back to the point I'm trying to make, the significant thing here is Peter Koneski racing for Brabham. We see how Brabham have been losing out to Ligier in that team championship battle. We know Gernot Frisch is having a good race up front in third place. Peter Koneski has ran into a lot of bad luck recently, and I'm sure he'd like to escape this little scrap unscathed by the end of it, and perhaps in front of his competitors would be a good day in the points for that team.
Good under braking for Juanme Costa, but not good enough to try and overtake Peter. Still, that's something that he'll have to tuck away into his mind, the way that he closed in on him very, very easily into that chicane. Even if he can't catch him on the straights, if he gets close enough, he could send one in, although going halfway through the hairpin's always tough, too.
So this battle continues. That other little battle we were watching for 6th place, by the way, has been building up a bit too, because David Roth we saw David Rowe have that big slide a couple of laps ago. He's recovered from that, and he has ran Nhola and Fraser back down, made this a three-way fight for sixth.
Yeah, it seems like these drivers are really evenly matched, which makes it so tough to try and overtake, which isn't ideal. You talked about how the previous tracks have presented a very tough opportunity to try and get by someone. It's even harder here in different ways. It's just, you got to really set yourself up. You got to really plan ahead and think ahead instead of just taking the first opportunity that comes to you.
And also, you've got to trust the other guys sometimes. Obviously, one of the best passing opportunities here is down at the chicane at the Wall of Champions. But that's a very tricky to get right, even when you're running on your own. You're going from a very fast speed down to a very slow speed. It's narrow. You can't really go through it too wide. And so sometimes, especially late on during the race, we'll see some drivers playing scare tactics through that chicane, trying to gain positions.
And the big irony about them racing at a track this car actually raced at is this car isn't really well suited to this sort of track. Slow chicane after slow chicane and long straight. What it does best in is fast sweepers with those ground effects, Sam. So this really presents a steep challenge, I'd say, for these drivers. Anybody who's coming in for the first time has come in at the deep end.
Yeah, I feel this track, though, is... as we keep an eye on this, I want to actually go back to the battle for 15th, because Acosta is all over Konecki. They're about to go side by side through the chicane, but they didn't. Konecki holds on to it for now. The other thing about this track, though, Joe, is some drivers can become specialists here. You know, it definitely is unique, and some drivers really like that about it, and so that they'll do more races here and maybe not necessarily be as good as other tracks as what they can do here.
Yeah, and certain drivers are like that, especially with a car like this, where they tend to only show up at certain races. Actually, I'm curious how many Canadians we have here today. Sometimes you get that. The locals will come in on the track that they have the most pride in to see how they fare against the regulars. Look at this, though. It looks like Taylor might be under attack from Bycroft for 17th. Let's see what the first turn holds.
Yeah, this is at the tail end pretty much of this pack that we're watching go on. Oh, and there's contact! Costa got into the back of Konecki, and that's not going to help Abram in the team championship. I think it was a bit of aggressive move there from Costa, honestly. We'll get a replay of it, but he was trying to make something happen on the inside of turn 2, it almost looked like.
And I want to say that we saw that a bit ago. It looked like he was faster mid-corner. Maybe he has more mechanical grip. And let's see here. I'm going to watch for the first time on the replay because I missed it on screen. Yeah, just mid-corner, it seems like he's able to tuck that car in a lot better. And this time, unfortunately, it bit him because he kept his nose in it. And fortunately, that turned Peter around.
Get one more look at it. I've been looking at the driver list, Joe, find out the answer to your Canada question.
Too.
There's four drivers. Tommy Lincombe, 5 drivers. Tommy Lincombe, Eric Dalinda, Francois Gagne, Tony Teolis, and Charles Eric Lemon.
Surprised you didn't say 3 drivers. Is Yuha having some connection problems? Or did he have a cut course?
Whatever happened, he's lost it all the time, hasn't he?
He must have had a cut course. I'm gonna check. Yeah, it was the final chicane. He straight lined it. Let's look at the replay. I would think it was just as simple out braking. When you're pushing these cars to the limit, you really don't want to go over you don't want to go over the curbs. And so he just decided, all right, I'm not going to damage the underside of the car. I'm going to bite the bullet and go straight through.
And perhaps this could have been a result of a strong wind that we have around here. So maybe it could have upset his braking zone. But also, he has been driving very fast. I mean, he had built his lead up to 3 seconds over Matt Wood, who's no slouch himself. And you see that the wind's actually increased a bit more northwesterly. So the good news for Noah Lampe, he built up such a good lead. He was able to still hold on to the lead. but has fallen down to about 1.5 seconds as they hit lap traffic.
Indeed, that was Robert Botts that he just went by. He's got a little bit of a gap before he hits more of them, but it's going to get thicker and thicker as he goes. So he's really got to kind of figure out the best places to overtake. And he's just like you talked about, you need a little bit of help when you're in a battle. Is this? No, this is Matt Wood overtaking lap traffic as well. Just like you need help with a battle, you need some help from the lap traffic as well. They need to behave and be aware of who's coming up on them to try and lose you as little time as possible. So you really got to hope that you get drivers who have experience running at the back of the pack and how to best let the leaders by.
Yeah, and you'll see some of the lap cars that they go by are off a pace, carrying a little bit of damage just from the argy-bargy and the nature of this course in the opening few laps. But the fact of the matter is, we still have 34 cars on the lead lap. 38th place is only 1 lap down, so there's still a lot of cars on this track, and it will turn into a bit of a sports car game of cat and mouse dealing with lap traffic as the race goes on.
On screen, we watched Rowe finally overtake Frazier, and it was down into the hairpin. I'm not sure if that was a smart move. He got a great chance because he had a run coming out at 8 and 9, but look at this. This is why I say this, because Frazier now has the draft, and if he's aggressive, no, he's not, he's going to back out of it. That's why I tend to try and set up passes out of the hairpin instead of into them, because, whoa, and a big mistake from Rofe. This is going to hand it over on a silver platter, probably.
Well, he's still got the inside line, but it's the second time we've seen a mistake like that from Rofe today. And he's just able to close the door on Frazier. Frazier still sticking his win in there, but finally Rofe is going to seal the deal, and now we'll be hoping not to make a similar mistake out of turn 7, which is where we did it earlier, and yield that position back.
Yeah, as I was about to say, to me, it's a lot better to try and keep the driver from being able to attack you back by passing them out of the hairpin on the way down to the Wall of Champions. Because if you get a bad exit off of the hairpin, they get the draft, and he might actually get it again because Frazier's staying tucked up right underneath David here.
Yeah, Frazier backed off quite apparently before they went into the chicane at the Wall of Champions last lap around. And of course, I think we'll find out this lap if that was just a one-off. You know, he said, oh, I'm too far behind this lap to make it work, or if his intentions are to stay behind Rofe. Yeah, we might not find out, because even if he does want to get back by, he's a little bit too far back.
Yep, that'd be way too much of a dive bomb this time by. But he has been watching, and, you know, it could be a case where he has seen what Rofe is like out of the corners and seen him struggling to find grip. So maybe he's just thinking, okay, I'll wait for him to make an error coming off a turn, and I'll just stream by on a straightaway. But he didn't get it this time.
Yeah, give you an update on what's going up here in third place. Maybe we could get a replay of what happened out of turn 2. I think Gurno Frisch had a bit of a moment coming out of that turn, lit him up, and that cost him a bit of time to George Lambert.
It's a DH driver coming through 1 and 2.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of lap traffic in front of him, too.
Yeah, no, that was lighting up the tyres, because I don't think that's somewhere where you need to be picking up a draft from lap traffic.
No, not really. Yeah, he definitely got on the power a little bit too eagerly. But he's keeping it safe from Lambert. Lambert is not nearly close enough for an attempt right now.
Noticing also our 3 of our top 4 teams in the championship running their 2nd, 3rd and 4th on camera. Lotus, Brabham and Ligier. Juha Noralampi, don't think he hasn't been competing the full season, so he's been running with his own charity sponsorship. We talked to him about that during the post-race interviews last race.
Yeah, obviously something very close to his heart, having to himself battle with chronic fatigue syndrome. So always good to see Juha. Go ahead.
Matt Wood in 2nd place, just clipped a spinning lap car of Michael Sherlin. I think Wood got away with it, but boy, this could have been scary.
And, you know, I think the car was trying to pull over to the side and let him through, and it was just miscommunication. At least it looked like it from there. And not seeing any damage on the nose of Wood's car from that. So he got lucky here.
Yeah, but not just that he spun him, but watch Sherlin bounce off a wall and almost get into him again.
Yeah, this is where it takes that experience of knowing what to do. When you try to do the right thing as a lap car, sometimes it can bite you back. Sometimes you just got to keep racing how you're racing, let the leader deal with you. It's all kind of subjective, unfortunately. There is some back and forth between drivers on what's the right thing to do in the right situation. It really just takes experience and reading what's happening around you the best.
And of course, there's different driver philosophies to be in a lap car. Some people are a bit more willing to sit over for the leaders than others. We saw perfect examples of that last week at Barber.
Well, and two, it's knowing the philosophy of the driver that you're racing with. Sometimes some leaders are a lot more aggressive about getting by. And again, that comes down to experience, knowing your competitors, and knowing how to deal with who's coming up on you.
Let's go back to 18th place real quick. We're going to keep half an eye on this battle for 8th as well. But these are three drivers who regularly appear during our broadcasts who are running quite close together right now. Barry West, who's up 8 positions from where he started. Not too far behind him, Danilo Sanfilippo. And then Peter Konietzki was quite close to them in 20th place. However, he's faded off a little bit, and now he's got to worry about Charles-Eric Lemelin behind him in 21st. And that's just a matter of the size and strength of this field here today, as Lemelin getting held up by the lap car of Chris Howard, is the fact that these names we regularly see up there fighting for top 10 positions, even halfway through this race, still around 20th position.
Yeah, these drivers fight hard no matter where they are on the track. And that was a great example of traffic potentially playing in your favor, because Peter, again, was a little bit aggressive there to try to get by Chris Howard, and that split him from Lemelin. Lemelin was stuck behind him since Howard had to take a little bit of an awkward line through that corner, and that gapped him so much that gave him a lot of breathing space.
Gernot Frisch has been getting held up by the lap car Brennan Cleveland, and this has allowed George Lambert to run him right back down for 3rd position. They finally got by Cleveland. He let them by on the straight. It wasn't his fault, really. Frisch just caught him at a part of a track where it's really tough to get by. And now Lambert is going to try and keep in the slipstream with Frisch, because they're starting to run out of laps. We are closing in on only 10 laps left to go in this thing.
Yeah, but I think what we saw with the traffic means that opportunities are going to come. Lambert is placing himself well, though. Let's see if this is good enough. I think he's a little too far back, unfortunately. We're going to see a little bit of difference in philosophies on downforce probably between some of the drivers, and that might be what is causing some of the stalemates that we're seeing out there.
Keep an eye on these guys as they head on down into turn number 1, but no pass is going to take place. So we got a report from the pits. The driver who had been running in 12th position, Pablo Lombrara Suarez, has had to take a tow. He has voiced his displeasure in the driver chat, and we're about to find out why.
Into the corner. He's a little wide already. Oh, did not expect the car there. Not sure if his spotter just told him a little too late or what happened, but it looked like he just turned into him. And trees are going to get in our way here, unfortunately. Hard to tell. We'll have to ask him after the broadcast if he comes in and talks to us.
There's lots of lumberjacks in this country. They can cut those trees down fast next time. Meanwhile, the lap traffic has allowed our 2 leaders to close in again. Only a bit over a second between Noralampi and Wood.
Wood seems like he's pushing too. I think he knows that he's really got to take whatever comes his way in terms of trying to overtake Nora Lampe. And probably is aware about what I talked about earlier, that if he puts a little bit of pressure on him, it could maybe get some errors out of the fin. And getting within a second will start to maybe make Juha sweat a little. We'll see.
Also, I don't know how much of a lost cause Wood accepts that the championship could be at this point. He's quite far back of Gernot Frisch in the points, but of course he's beaten Frisch on track right now, providing Gernot Frisch... Gernot Frisch has pretty much done well at every single race this season, so he doesn't really have any bad drop weeks to fall out on. That's the hard part for Matt Wood. If he... Even if he were to win and Gernot Frisch were to run into trouble today, I think Frisch would still be sitting pretty in the point standings with 2 rounds left to go.
Yeah, and at this point, I don't know what's going on in Wood's head personally, but if I was in his position, knowing the point situation, you have nothing to lose. At this point, Wood's really just got to go for maximum points and try to get the win at every round. Because if he has any bad races, obviously, he's well out of it. But it's going to take the absolute best results for him to have any sort of opportunity to try and overtake Frisch. So you just got to go for it.
11 laps left to go as they cross the line for round 10 of the Lotus 79 Classic Team Championship. Juha Lampe has led the race from pole. He's been the fastest car throughout most of it, but currently only holding a 1.5 second lead over Matt Wood. Gernot Frisch, our championship leader, is rounding out the third step of a podium right now, but he's got pressure in the blue and white form of George Lambert not too far behind him. Nicola Kochi ran into a bit of drama early on. He's been having a clean race since then, though. Honestly, a bit of a quiet race since then in 5th place. Likewise for Tommy Unhola back in 6th. The Tommy Unhola ran into a lot of bad luck early on through the season. He's had a couple of good races recently, though, and I'm sure he'd be happy with the 6th today. David Rowe has had a couple of scary moments today, but still running in 7th place. All these drivers are running on their own. 8th on back, it starts to get a little bit closer. Adam Fraser has pressure from behind in the form of Oguz Daruk, and Jamie Hall in 10th place, not too far behind those two either.
Looking towards the back of the field, we've had some good climbers. Most notably, if you look at 22nd, Paul Ferrer. You mentioned earlier about the big split size here and how this could help out some of the drivers at the back if they just play it safe. Paul's one of those. He started 34th. He's in 22nd. But he's in a little bit of a fight. This is Robert Plumley, who's up 5 positions himself, seeing if he could take it away.
And in case our good friend Bill Zahn is watching this broadcast, yes, Paul Ferrer did set a qualifying time, so this is all legit. That isn't the case for the drive in 20th. Charles-Eric Lemelin started 40th, but he didn't set a time in qualifying, but he's up 20 spots.
A little too much curb there coming through 6 for Paul Ferrer as we take a look at Charles working his way around the hairpin. Down into 8. Plumley not quite close enough. Oh, but that is definitely a mistake that's going to hand it over. Oh, but he doesn't take it. He checks up. Plumley being a little bit too cautious. He probably should have stayed in it there.
And you know what's going to make all this really interesting in a few laps is this is all not going on far ahead of our race leader coming up to lap these guys.
And that's all for position behind them as well. That's Corrigan and Simpkins fighting for position. Defensive move by Ferrer down into the wall of champions. Plumley could try it if he wanted, but going around the outside, I wouldn't advise it. Look at how much it's checking up the cars behind them, though. This is not good for our leader.
Yeah, look at how much Nora Lampe has ran them all right down, and he's about to catch them right as they're about to go into all these chicanes with the walls around them. It's going to be hard for these guys to let Nora Lampe by. He goes down the inside of Simpkins. Simpkins comes back on the track ahead of Wood, so that's going to give Nora Lampe a bit of a breather.
Very, very polite. Corrigan also just pulled all the way off when he saw him coming. These guys are willing to take a little bit of a timeout, let them through, but that was really awkward coming through the chicane for poor Wood. All
right, so they've got 2 of these cars in this 4-way battle. behind them. Next up is Plumlee. Plumlee's just going to pull to the side, going down the straight, and that should be smooth sailing now for Nora Lumpy and Woods. So well done for the lap cars, letting our 2 leaders by.
Just one more to go for the Finn. He's been doing a really good job of keeping them separated by at least 1 car at a time. And now 2 at least that Woods got to try to attack.
Paul Ferrer was way too generous to our race leader, I think. He kind of just let him by on the straight. He could have just waited for the back straight, gave Nora Lumpy a tow, and not lost that much time to Robert Plumlee. But either way, Plumlee then got it wrong in the hairpin. I don't know if he overshot it or if he just took a really bad line and let the leaders by, but it allowed Ferrer to hold on to 22nd place.
As hard as these guys fight, and I talked about fighting hard for every position, one thing I love about all of these vintage series is they sort of take that gentleman driver philosophy. Everybody is really interested in fair play. It's a close-knit community. Nobody really wants to try and get a position just because someone was letting the leaders by in a place because they saw that they were in a battle as well. They all kind of just tend to pull over and put their own fight on hold to let them through and make sure that they get it in what feels like a genuine pass.
I know this is 2 years too late, these being cars from 1978, but if we go back to 9th place, we got something looking like Nicky Lauda and James Hunt going on back here.
Yeah, McLaren versus Ferrari, Frazier versus Hall, and Hall's starting to put a little bit of pressure here on for a top 10.
And that green car ahead of him's 4th position as well. Auguste Dirac in 8th place.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if he tends to race here a lot. He's from the International Club. He doesn't show up on the broadcast ones, but he's certainly got some speed, racing top 10 in a single split here when all the talent has showed up. He's got a 4,000 I rating, so Dirac, I hope he comes in more because he's certainly got it. And here we got the battle starting to get a little bit hotter.
They're going down the back straight. They're getting the slipstreams on each other. They're side by side, wheel to wheel. Hall on the outside, much laid on the brakes, and will take 9th place and is able to commit to the chicane. Now let's see if Frazier's able to do anything with him in the closing 7 laps of this race.
Yeah, it looks like he's not running away very quickly, though, so I think Frazier is going to have at least 1 or 2 chances to attack back, but that's not going to help getting a bad exit off of the Senna S. He's going to have to regroup and get that ground back. Bit of a fight going on back in 12th, it looks like. This is Bycroft and Atkinson.
Yeah, Bycroft just got by him. Bycroft had a couple of unfortunate moments earlier that cost him a bit of time and positions. He's been trying to rally back to get those back. He started 10th, and after he's come back, he's only in 12th, so I'm sure he'd still like a couple more. Dustin Herrider, who we haven't really given a shout out all race, he's kind of having a quiet race in 11th place. He's about another 5 seconds up the road from Bycroft.
And Herrida's kind of running in no man's land right now. Not only is he 5 seconds ahead of Bycroft, he's 17 behind Frazier, who's in the top 10 ahead of him. So at this point, Dustin's probably looking at that 6 laps to go and thinking, all right, let's mind the gap and cruise to the finish here.
There's still some lap traffic for our leaders, but they're cars that are already multiple laps down that aren't fighting up each other, and they shouldn't put up too much of a fight against Nora Lumpy and Wood when they come by. We currently have 21 cars on the lead lap still, Simon Schultz being the last one of those, and he's about 20 seconds up the road from getting lapped from Nora Lumpy still. So I don't think lap traffic will play much of a factor in the closing 5.5 laps of this race. And that could be bad news for Wood, Joe, because it does seem Nora Lumpy has had the pace advantage. As I say there, he gets quite close to one of those cars multiple laps down there. Noah Lumpy does seem to have a pace advantage, and now he has a clear track. We'll see if he's able to demonstrate that. 1.5 seconds between our two leaders as they come to 5 to go.
I was about to say, don't speak too soon, because that was Sherling. Remember, Wood got into him before, and he looked a little out of sorts. He was trying his best to stay out of the way again, but both through turns 8 and 9 and through the hairpin, he was struggling to keep control of that car. And I feel good for Juha Noralampi managing to avoid what could have been a very embarrassing incident for a second time in the race for Sherling.
That was the lap car of Sergio Morales, letting them by, running down in 34th position. Meanwhile, this scrap continues for 8th on back.
And they're catching Dirac here quite a bit. They're so much closer than what we saw before. Ooh, big bobble there coming off the corner for Frazier once again. He seems to struggle with that turn 2. I'm not sure what exactly is going on there, but he's lighting up the rears, and if he does that too much, you can overheat the rear tires and start to lose time.
I don't know if this was planned by Frazier, but it's a strategy I've implemented in the past. We saw him give up a position quite easily the Hall earlier. I wonder if he thought, hey, Hall's demonstrated he's faster than me. If I let him by, I can follow him and we can catch this guy in 8th place. So that's what he's done. Now that they've called him, I wonder if Frazier will be a bit more aggressive in trying to get 8th place back by. Wow, Hall was much later on the brakes than no goods there.
But can he get the power down off? And yes, he can. My goodness. Made Dirac look like he was standing still. Now it's going to be a side-by-side battle down to the wall of champions. Frazier tried to follow him through, but he's got to do the hard work here.
Well, let's see. Is this Dirac's weakness? Is he just too early on the brakes? Oh. No! Frazier's too late on the brakes.
And that could cost him a chance at trying to get past Dirac and to try and go on the attack on Hall. Unfortunately, that's quite a bit of time lost from that penalty. Boy,
now,
Hall threw out an anchor. I cannot believe he was that much better into the hairpin.
So now our leaders approaching only 3 laps left to go. We'll be at Suzuka next week, by the way. Another Grand Prix circuit.
That's going to be an awesome one to watch these cars on, especially through places like the S's where the ground effects of this car really shine.
And especially considering the fact, Joe, that so often in this series we see races where some drivers race with different downforce levels from each other. We see this all the time, even in modern Formula One at Suzuka, where some drivers will work on getting a car that can handle well through the S's, and some drivers will work on getting a car that can go fast down the back straight to 130R.
And this battle for 13th on screen, that's Doby trying to go on the attack of Atkinson. Atkinson way shallow into the hairpin. That could hurt him, depending on if he can get off the corner. Ooh, and he's nice and smooth on the power. Beautifully done by John.
Both of these drivers up multiple positions from where they started. John Atkinson Jr. running 13th. He started 19th. Sam Doby also having a good race, 21st to 14th. He would like one more spot though. He's got 3 laps to try and find a way to get it done.
Please, sir, can I have some more? Oh, he's poking his nose out from way back. I think he's just trying to get into the head of John at this point.
It's not unusual, even in professional motor racing, to see chaotic final laps here at Montreal, just because so many of these heavy braking zones can become overtaking opportunities when you permit dive bombs. And on the final lap of any race, who doesn't? And we've got plenty of little scraps still left out here as we enter the closing 2 laps of this event. That could be decided through rubber-to-rubber passes in just a couple of moments' time. And everyone getting in place for one last gasp.
Watching the leaders here, Wood has been staying within touch of Juha. And I'm curious to know if Juha has been pushing this whole time or if he's been minding the gap, because Wood has certainly kept him honest, but we haven't really seen him within striking distance for much of this race. Meanwhile, here's two drivers within striking distance.
Yeah, we saw Jamie Hall get by Oguz Dirac with that impressive outbreak and maneuver into the hairpin earlier on. Oguz actually suffering with a couple of connection issues. That's not going to help him. But Dirac is in a perfect, one of those perfect opportunities we were just talking about, where you've got 1.5 laps left to go. There's plenty of places to make a pass around here. You've just got to pick one.
Yeah, he got a wake-up call, though, there, as Hall sent it in incredibly deep to take that position away. So he knows he's going to have a fight on his hands if he tries to overtake into the braking zone. This lap traffic might help, though. He's going to be polite. White flag is out, though.
Yeah, Juha Noralampi holding a 1.6 second lead at the line over Matt Wood. Looking for the victory.
This has been a fantastic race by Juha. Apparently, he was pretty dominant in one of the previous races earlier today. So he's not looking as dominant, but we might need to go back to Dirac because he's very, very close. Thought he was going to take a look down into one, but he just wasn't brave enough.
There's still a couple more opportunities awaiting them towards the end of the lap. Barring any mistakes from Hall here, they should remain single file for the next 5 or 6 turns. This is where things will start picking up for those two again, where Juha is right now, working his way through the hairpin. Juha Noralampi has not been running full time this year. The preacher won 7 out of a 12 Classic Team Championship races last season. He's won at Nürburgring and at Barber this season, looking for win number 3. It's only 2 turns away from him. He navigates his way by the wall of champions, and Matt Wood is going to have to sit back and watch as Juha Noralampi takes the checkered flag to win here at Montreal.
And Oguz Dirac, as we take a look at P8 here, he unfortunately spun it. You talked about trying to be eager onto the brakes. What about onto the power? He unfortunately threw away a position there with that move.
And we'll get a replay of this, and then we'll go grab a replay of a great scrap for 13th place that has been going on. John Atkinson Jr. won it, but only because Sam Doby attempted to pass on the outside of him, going into one of the chicanes, overshot it, slid through the grass, and that will cost him that battle.
After we watch this replay, we get one of poor Paul Ferrer. He was doing so good, he had gained so many positions, and then he threw it away in the final chicane as we ride on board with Doby. Wow, look at them bobbing and weaving. This is a dogfight.
Yeah, and it would have been great to watch all the way to the line, but Doby just went in here way too fast, and I mean, he would have got a cut course penalty for that.
And then Paul Ferrer, he looks okay here. You can see he was already a lap down from Dirac, who just had his spin in front and was going on ahead. But then coming in here, not only did he come in too hot and have a problem in the final chicane, but then trying to get the car going again, he continued to lose positions. Oh, what a great race, just thrown away at the end. Almost gets hit by cars as he tries to cross the track there.
Yeah, went into a bit of a panic mode, but still got it across the line eventually. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break here on GSRC. We will be back with a full race rundown and drive interviews. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada, where we just witnessed round 10 of the Lotus 79 Classic Team Championship here on the Global SimRacing Channel. At the end of the day, it was Juha Noalampi taking home the win, not by much though. Matt Wood was always just a little ways back, keeping the pressure on. Matt Wood will have to sell for second. Gono Prix, she was 6 seconds down the road in the number 1 car, finishing 3rd place today. And then George Lambert and Nicola Cochi will round out the top 5. The top 5 highest iRating drivers finish in those positions. On the flip side of the coin, Tommy Unhola and David Roth had good days for iRating with 6th and 7th place finishes respectively, ahead of Jamie Hall, Adam Frazier and Oguz Dirac, who definitely put on the show for us today. He rounds out top 10.
Yeah, Dustin Roeder, I mentioned well behind that in 11th, but still a good run, starting from 16th. Steve Bycroft, unfortunately, his mistake set him backwards. He finishes 12th. John Atkinson Jr. takes 13th, and Sam Doby 14th. Then it's Kendrick Taylor finishing P15. Michael Cochin, he gained a lot of spots from 24th to 16th. Barry West finishes 17th with Peter Koneski coming home in P18. How about this one? No qualifying time from Charles Eric Limelin, but from 40th to 19th today. Top 20 rounded out by Simon Schultz.
Then in 21st position, we have Robert Plumley ahead of Glenn Corrigan, Robert Simpkins and Paul Ferrer after a spin at the end comes home in 24th place. Francisco Javier Gutierrez finishes 25th ahead of Francois Gagne. Brennan Cleveland, Keith Herner and John Stevens round out the cars 1 lap down. First car 2 laps down was Danilo Sanfilippo in 30th.
Robert Botts winds up in 31st with Michael Sherling finishing 32nd. Then it's Peter Brennan, 33rd. These are cars that are many laps down at this point. Sergio Morales, 34th, and Tony Tiolas, 35th. Then we get to the DNFs back here. Pablo Suarez, 36th. Chris Howard, 37th. Eric Delinda in 38th. Fabio Guerrero in 39th. And Paume Costa in 40th. The last of the field, Marco Sanfilippo, Alex Millward, Paolo Alberton, and Tommy Lacombe.
So those are the drivers who might want to forget about today's race. Let's talk about the drivers who want to remember it fondly, because Juha, this is your 3rd win of the season, but it wasn't an easy one. You always had pressure from behind.
Well, actually, I don't think that I had the good pressure because I was messing around myself with a great lead. I was taking 2 times this slowdown penalty when I just couldn't brake at the last chicane. Well, it was quite interesting, but I knew that I had a very fast car and I had a great pace, and I didn't think that anyone could have any chance with me because even I was so close, but I didn't push anything. I pushed 6-7 laps, and I made my best lap at the time at the lap 6, and then I was just losing my interest and losing my concentration because I had a 3-4 seconds gap, and it wasn't very nice to drive there because there was coming up those lapped cars and I couldn't know how they will behave because some of them are very new for me and some made good things, but some didn't do so good things. But well, it was this kind of. But I'm glad. Win is win.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked like it would have got a little hairy there. As you mentioned, there was one pack, I recall, of about 4 lapped cars when Wood wasn't too far behind you. We were wondering, how are they both going to get through this? How do you like Montreal as a circuit? It's very tricky in these cars, I should imagine, with all that power going to the rear wheels.
Yeah, this has been very tricky for me last season. So I haven't got any great wins here. I have struggled with my setup and my driving, and it hasn't been great. But after last time, I just make few changes for my car. At this week, early in this week, I was managing my setup, and I noticed that I could make improvement for the world record, which I had earlier, and then I knew that I have a good pace. And then I got sick, and I haven't been able to practice. I wasn't able how I can manage to race this day, but it was good. Even I am a little sick now, but this track is not very good because it is very much tricky corners, and there is those walls very near, and you can't make any big mistakes there. But it was fun.
All right. Well, since you're sick, we'll let you go and rest up a little bit, and hope to see you back next week at Suzuka.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you guys for the broadcast, and have a good weekend. Bye.
That was our race winner, Juha Nuolampi. Joe, who have you called up with?
I've got fourth place George Lambert with me, and George was in a race-long fight with Gernot Frisch, but let's talk about the early part of the race in that battle when you were ahead with him. It looked like you made Gernot work for that one.
Yeah, he had more straight line speed than me, so I knew if he got a run, there wasn't going to be a lot I could do about it, but I could have defended that time, but Nicola was right behind. I didn't want to get us caught up in a battle and then he come flying through. So yeah, I kind of let him have the first corner and then see if I can get it back after that.
You talked about the straight line speed, and we were discussing that a little bit during the race, that the difference in philosophies on downforce some drivers take in this car. How did you go about? I take it you had a little bit more wing on it then?
I'm not sure if I had more wing. I was running a little bit softer setup, I think, than Gernot, so that might be why I was a bit slower on the straight.
Other than that, it seemed like a lot of the race, most drivers were just having to fight to make sure that they didn't botch a chicane and get a slowdown. I see that you had at least one out there. What are your feelings about this track since this car actually raced here? Do you like it showing up on the schedule?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed driving around. You have to be a bit careful on the throttle coming out the chicanes, but getting it just right is a good feeling. Yeah, I don't know if you saw it on the broadcast, but I got that off track was because I got held up by traffic and I kind of messed up the braking because I had to slam on the brakes to avoid someone.
Yeah, it was something a lot of people had to deal with out there today, unfortunately. Next week, Suzuka, are you hoping for a split there in Japan, or do you enjoy these big field races?
Yeah, I think a split there would be good.
Yeah, traffic might be a little harder there, unfortunately. Well, congratulations on fourth regardless. Just shy of the podium, but still some nice points earned today.
Thank you.
That was George Lambert, fourth place. And Sam, who have you got?
Well, we got Nicola Cotree. Nicola, you had a very interesting race towards the start, but then it got a bit lonely there towards the end. Take us through it.
Yeah. Hi, guys. First of all, I just want to give my apologies to Alex for that little bump on the airplane, because I ruined his race. And at the same time, I lost contact with the first car, so that was a pretty stupid mistake by me. I was caught by surprise, but I wanted to apologize directly before the race, but I thought he was just disconnected because of the damage. So, yeah, that's a very bad way to start the race. And but after that, yeah, it was pretty lonely. There was a time where, because of the fight between Gernot and George, I was able to caught up to regain what I lost in the first lap. But there was too many cars in the way to stay with them, and maybe use a little bit of draft to stay close with them. And lap car. Sometimes you gain, sometimes you lose, and this time I lost quite a bit of seconds. So for that moment to the finish, it was a pretty lonely race, like you said.
Are you? I know in a couple of recent rounds you've been involved in some unfortunate crashes. Are you happy just to bring home a finish today, just to bring home a solid top 5, get some good momentum going again?
Yeah, absolutely. When I saw that the field was 44 cars, I just entered my survival mode and trying to not do anything stupid and to be very very careful. And it's the way it is now. And I could try to stay closer to George and put a little bit of pressure and see what would happen. But in another situation, not this one. This one it was too dangerous, and it's very important to finish the race and don't do anything stupid. At least not more than I already did. So it's a good race, but it couldn't be better.
All right, well, congrats on the top 5 finish, Nicola, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you next week at Suzuka.
Okay, guys, see you there.
All right, so that was 5th place finisher Nicola, and Joe, you've called up with Tommy.
Tommy, you had quite a fight going on there for much of the race, it looked like. We always seem to catch, or at least I seem to always be on this broadcast when you have an almighty battle going on.
Oh yeah, there was once again. Yeah, you are right. Somehow, always when I drive broadcast race, there is massive battle, and I'm having train or defending or attacking all the time. And yeah, I don't know how much did you catch it. This time sounds like somewhat, but yeah, it was really interesting races. There was a lot of things going on, and so big field that there was kind of few cars to be lapped, so it was really interesting today.
Yeah, did you manage to use any of those lapped cars to your advantage in the fight? We saw a lot of drivers either lose or gain positions based on when they caught lap traffic, maybe using them as a pick, or saw that the guy ahead of them was distracted.
Yeah, well, I made one mistake, actually, only biggest mistake. Actually, I made 2 mistakes. I drove in the wall when I was in one point of the race. But yeah, I lost 1 second about when I got distracted, but it was kind of. I maybe lost a little bit as car behind seemed to always get lap cars in last straight or before last corner. So I think he gained a bit, but I got it back in many corners and maybe was a bit faster. So, but it was really interesting out there. So yeah. Luckily, I didn't get many more troubles as one lap car was doing donuts or something, so I drove it in the wall and my steering was not straight and car didn't feel good at all when turning left. So, and it was lap 15, so it was kind of interesting after that, but I just wanted to finish the race today as I'm really tired as yeah, there was a 12-hour race yesterday and we got in a bit of trouble and I had to do over half of it and my leg is hurting when I put pressure on it. So I was only in like safe mode and wanting to finish. So it's yeah, I'm happy with that finish this time.
Well, that makes it even more amazing that you had steering that was off and you still managed 6th place. One last question before we let you go. Next week, we're going to Suzuka. And we talked a little bit about during the race that there's some differing philosophies between drivers as far as how to set up the car. What's your take on Suzuka? High downforce or low downforce?
Well, I'm actually not sure if I have raced it and yeah, actually no idea, but I like loose cars, so I think I'm going to try with as little downforce as possible to make around corners not so slow and take it on the straights as a loose car is fun for me and it's better to have less downforce usually, so I think it should be good for me and it's actually one of my favorite tracks, so I'm really waiting for it.
Awesome. We hope to see you there in a week's time. Congratulations on a top 10 today.
Yes, thank you, and see you there.
That was Tommy Unhola Sam finishing 6th.
Yeah, a bit further down the order, we find Barry West. But Barry, it was a good race for you. You picked up 9 positions. It just wasn't a good qualifying, it looked like.
No, same old story for me, Sam. Is poor qualifying. And then the race was a good race. I had a cracking race with Daniello, and he was very fair. I mean, he got on the outside of me a few times. But yeah, no, he was fair. I don't know what happened to him towards the end. And Michael, I don't know if you caught it on screen, Michael Cochin got a great pass into turn 1, 2. He got on the marbles on the way in and lost it a bit. I gave him plenty of room, and then I got on the marbles on the way out onto the back straight. And but that was good. He was faster than me anyway. And I think even Danilo was faster than me, but not in the right places. I just took a bit of wing off for the race, and it seemed to pay on the back straight. But I just had trouble getting the power down out of the hairpin. Car wouldn't change up into second gear. I had to go first and stay in first, and then do it again. And then in the earlier session, my gear shifter packed up, so I had to have massive, no practice, a big repair, and got it working again. So, yeah, all in all, to finish this track is an achievement, because it's although it's a fast track and there's long straights, there's so much concentration needed, and if you wander just a fraction, you're into the wall. It's very interesting track. I mean, I don't personally like it. I seem to finish here, but I'm not fast here at all, and it's very difficult to get traction here. It's like it's ice. I don't know what it is. But yeah, it seems to provide good racing, I suppose, though.
Yeah, well, we're running a bit long, Barry, so let you head out on this question. We're off to Suzuka next week. Is that a track where you plan on being back up in the top 10?
Top 12 perhaps be nice. But yeah, that's a good track. It depends on the setup in it through the S's and Degner's 1 and 2. Yeah, that's it's a lovely track, classic track like Silverstone and Spa. It's a nice track to drive, and that should be a good race. Looking forward to that one.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there, Barry. Congrats on hopefully getting your shifter problems sorted and making it to the finish today.
Yeah, just want to shout out to the teammate. George did a good job, and bad luck on Pablo, but I hope we're still top of the team championship. But yeah, good.
Either way, still going to be a very tight team championship with just 2 rounds left to go. We'll be back here on GSRC next week at Suzuka. Joe, 44 car field definitely produced some exciting racing for us today, even if a couple of drivers probably thought, there are a couple too many cars out there. It was fun from up here.
Yeah, I enjoy these big field races. It gives us a lot more excitement. I guess it's the more the merrier, in my opinion, I guess you could say. But obviously, it does help out when it splits a little bit. So we'll see what Suzuka brings next week, because that's going to be a completely different beast.
Well, we would like to thank all of the organisers and the competitors from the Lotus 79 Classic Team Championship for choosing GSRC and putting on another fantastic show. We would also like to thank all of the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts, and there you can see them all listed on your screen. Additional thanks goes out to Eric.com and June Lalonde to provide us with our great music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of their work. Thanks to the team today, Joe, Amjad and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can visit us at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel, and be sure to give us a like on Facebook and follow us on Instagram at GSRC_gram. All of the upcoming races for our other series are now listed on your screen, so be sure to check those out. Mark them down on your calendar and don't miss another second of exciting racing action. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.